You know how everything's a subscription now? Music, movies, even socks. I swear if
To continue this ad, please upgrade to Premium Plus Platinum.
What? No. Anyway, Blue Apron.
This is a pay-per-listen ad. Please confirm your billing.
Oh, that's annoying. At least with the new Blue Apron, there's no subscription needed. Get delicious meals delivered without the weekly plan.
Wait, no subscription?
Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Welcome back to What's Next with Lacey, the podcast where I interview young professionals about their career journey so far. Well, friends, it is officially season 3. I am so excited. I'm shocked, even though, yes, I am the one who arbitrarily decides when a season starts and when a season ends and whether a season even gets made in the first place. But honestly, I'm proud of myself. I like my content, so I'm going to keep making it. It's as simple as that. And there's truly no better way to kick off this season than with the incredible Alexa. She and I met during a, let's say, challenging chapter of our careers. You'll hear the whole story in the episode. She's here now, thriving and absolutely crushing it in her career. I'm so grateful she took the time to talk with me. Alexa comes from the world of music marketing with experience in gaming and strategic partnerships, and she's now the director of marketing at Cinq. She dives into what she does today, what she's done along the way, and brings great stories, great advice, and so much more. So definitely make sure you stick around until the very end, because there's truly not a moment to miss. And if you know someone who's even remotely interested in music marketing, why don't you go ahead and send them this episode now? Take a gamble on whether it's a good app. I promise you it is. But send it along, just in case they might be interested. Oh, and if you think that something is weird in my audio for this episode, no, you don't. Nope, that's just your phone or your headphones or your computer, something along those lines. Anyway, all right, with that, I am thrilled to introduce Alexa. Alexa, welcome to What's Next. It is so lovely to see you. How's it going?
It is great. Thank you so much for having me, and just happy to be here.
I do want to touch on how we met because it does link to a previous episode. And if you haven't listened to this episode, I recommend. It's my episode with Giovanna Ventola, who started Rise. And that's how we met. Probably not our best time in our career, but that is how we met. So we were both been laid off in the entertainment industry. We met, we chatted, we talked through the time that is. So I want to start off with just how are you doing? I know you found a new job, which is super exciting, and I'm so excited to hear all about it. But how have you been since then? How are you feeling and all of that?
Yeah, that was obviously a tough time for both of us, but I'm so grateful for that community. And I remember we were on, like she does these calls where kind of everyone hops on and introduce themselves, and you started talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to meet Lacey because your energy, we're in a similar industry, and I knew that we would connect. And yeah, since then, I was on the job hunt for a while, but yeah, I landed at Cinq Music, and I'm the director of marketing there. And it's been fabulous just to step into a new role and really learn and, be a part of something different that I, haven't been a part of. So it's been great.
Yeah, that is such a great end to that
Yes.
time where we both were definitely riding the struggle bus for sure. I will say I also am so grateful for you during that time because you connected me with the wonderful Carrie who I met with for career counseling, and she was awesome. And I'm so eternally grateful for you for that. So it's so nice to have someone during that time to just help us get through the struggle that it is.
Yeah, and having a sounding board for someone that knows your industry and knows the quirks of it, I feel like a lot of people just have a lot of assumptions, and also obviously the job market then and even unfortunately now is very, very challenging. So I feel like if you're not in that space, it's like you don't know how to help because you have all these assumptions about what it is about. Yeah.
No, totally. Well, on that note, let's dive into the work that you're doing now. I'm so excited to hear all about it. You, as you said, are director of marketing at Cinq.
let's start on the baseline. What does that mean? What does that mean for you day to day? Are you really more like marketing the business, or are you, I know it's like for a music company, so are you marketing the product? What's it look like?
Yeah, sure. So Cinq Music Group it's a technology driven music distribution, label, and rights management company. So our mission is we exist in the service of music. So we act as a bridge between music creators to content to consumers. So our ultimate mission is inspiring happiness in the world through music. So my role looks over a team of two on the DSP partnership side and the paid marketing part of our business. So we're focused on promoting our artists and the Cinq brand through social media, paid media, content campaigns. That could be DSP strategy, playlisting, partnerships, events, and more. So it's a broad role. And when I say DSP, I mean digital service provider, and that could be anywhere you stream music like Spotify or Apple Music.
So interesting. Two sides of the business that you are working on. So what does a typical day look like for you? Are you really kind of working on your own individual projects? Are you kind of in the nitty-gritty in meetings? Are you working with a team? Lots of like in all different types of teams? Is it lots of glamorous music stuff? Tell me everything.
Yes, I would say less on the glamorous music stuff. It is very much a typical day is like a mix of meetings, spreadsheets, strategy, and planning. So that could be meeting internally to talk about an artist and release and rollout and marketing. And then it also could be meeting with the artist teams and discussing like the music that they want to put out and when they want to put it out and the story behind it. And then it's talking to partners about, hey, we've got this album coming out, like here's all about it and what are the opportunities with this artist. Could also be with other partners. We're independent, so we talk to lots of folks, and it varies. Some days look, there's always meetings, but it does look very different every day, which is interesting.
Yeah, totally. Kind of off of that, just out of simple curiosity, like what would an artist say to you in terms of the story that they want to talk to? Is it relating to their music that they're putting out there? Is it relating to like who they are? I'm assuming it varies, but like, is there one that stands out to you that was like, wow, this was a great story that they told me and it made my life so much easier in the like marketing side of things?
Yes. In this business, storytelling is so, so important. And I think there are artists out there that understand that and, have something to say, because music is a story, right? So it could be anything from what they've been through in their life to why they're putting out music, or it's simply like, hey, like I want to party and I want to create music for a party, right? Particular artist we worked with had his new music is an evolution. He's been around for a while. So it's like he was a hit maker and now he's like segueing his art into just encompassing him from a young man to, an adult, right? So it's like that evolution. So anytime that when we talk to artists and artist teams, having that kind of fleshed out, and certainly they can give us a story and then we kind of like play on that some more, look at the data too and say, oh, well, this artist does well in this country or this service, and you can kind of pivot. We develop, emails and, through our conversations with these partners, we're developing that whole story end to end. And then we're trying to slot in when it makes sense to release another track or a video or whatever. And sometimes also things are very like organic. Something will be doing well on social media and we lean into that. So it could be any variety of things.
That's so cool. It does, like you said, there's like no day the same, and it feels like there would be no strategy the same for an artist. Do you feel that way?
Yes. Every artist has different methods that work well for them and what they're comfortable. Like there's certain artists that like don't want to be in camera.
Yeah.
So like, how do you lean into that? Or they just don't like social media either. So it's, figuring out what works for them and their music and ultimately their fan base, which is the most important.
No, totally. So you're working with the team. Do you have any say as the director of marketing in terms of like when your company brings on an artist being like, this person's really going to work well for this reason, and that's why we should bring them on? Or is it really like they bring them on and you come in from that moment, from once they're already joined on with Cinq?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a little bit of both. I am working cross-functionally with we call them our sales team, but our A&R people.
Yeah.
And they are starting to get input from us about like, hey, does this artist make sense?
Yeah.
Because there are certainly genres that are growing. And then there are some where it's just, there's so many artists in this particular genre. Like, how do you stand out? And again, that like all goes back to storytelling. Like, how do you make yourself stick out with among everybody else that's putting out the same thing? So it's a little bit of both, and depending on where we are in the deal, I might be brought in and they'll get my opinion, and I look at a variety of data and factors, and also just my opinion about, is it a crowded market? Is there just tons of artists in this genre? Does it make sense?
Right.
Is there something happening in the genre? Like a great example is the regional Mexican genre, which we have a lot of artists in. There's certain parts of that there's police activity around the music, or, like, do they have a visa? Can they come to the US? Like those kind of things would be challenging as well. So it just varies.
Is there a facet of your strategies or I guess the cycle that you work through with the work that you're doing at Cinq that you enjoy the most? Are you like, I'm excited by every part?
I think it's, really interesting to have that 1,000 feet, bird's eye view, I guess. Because previously I was so focused on one part, and now I'm kind of looking at everything, and that's been really great. But I do love that, we get past the cycle of, doing a deal, everything's, the content's ingested, and then we're at the storytelling stage.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's my favorite, is like all the work it's a ton of work on the back end. And now there's a ton of work on the front end of like, okay, now we've got the music, the artist is ready to go. When do we release? What kind of levers are we pushing? What kind of campaign are we doing? What makes sense?
Yeah, that's so cool. So you work remotely. Do you love that? Are you not the biggest fan of it? Do you get to travel a lot for any shows? Like if you're talking about an artist releasing something, I'm assuming a big event or something goes along with that. Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I feel really fortunate to work remotely, but I'll always say that's not without challenges. Just as it is challenging to commute and work in an open office plan every day. And I think remote work is really important. It allows everyone to have a seat at the table in an industry that's so exclusive. And that's something that's a personal peeve of mine, is how are we going to make the music industry more inclusive for all of the genres, all the people from all walks of life, if we force them to live in New York or LA, right? Not everyone can, make the jump to those very expensive cities. Yeah. So, yeah.
That is,
and certainly I do travel a little bit. I've been to a few events here and there. So I'm grateful that I have that opportunity.
I completely agree with that. I do live in New York, but the pressure you feel to sometimes like go to LA to be at the hub of this entertainment industry. When I worked in the entertainment industry, I'm like, well, why can't it be here? Like, now that we have this capability to work remotely, like you can access so much more talent by just being a little bit more inventive with how you're structuring things. Yeah. So I love that you get to be able to work remotely and do what you love at the same time. You talked a little bit about the shows that you travel to. What is the coolest part of your job? I'm sure when you tell people what you do, that people are like, and as I've said many times already in this interview, this is so cool. But ultimately, what is the part that if someone was like, tell me the most awesome part of your job, what would it be?
I think for me, it just all comes down to music and the story that the artist wants to share, and their connection with fans. Personally, I really do try to go to shows fairly regularly on my own just to keep reminding myself of like how powerful the connection between artists and fans is. Recently, actually last Friday, I went to see Kohei Kai. He's a Hawaiian island artist, not something we're affiliated with, but I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And the vibe of that show was incredible. And he handed out leis during one of his songs and encouraged everyone to put the lei on and then turn around and pass it to the person behind you as like sharing aloha, sharing love, connection.
Oh my gosh.
And this was like an 11,000 seat amphitheater. It made all the way back.
No
I saw
way.
pictures of folks like way behind me that had the leis on. And it just like that kind of connection, we just don't see that often. I was just totally blown away. So like for me, it's just making sure I'm connecting, being a part of music, whether it's an artist we work with or not, and continually bringing that back to my work.
Wow, that's amazing. That is such an environment to be in, and yeah, I could so see that being such a cool part. I'm curious, do you get to pitch artists? So you are going out to shows, do you get to be like, wow, I saw this really cool up and coming artist I'd love to be a part of? Or is your company more kind of in the development, like working with developed artists already?
I've definitely brought in genres that I'd like to work with. Whether that makes sense, because it's obviously we have a business.
Yes.
And, a lot of artists already have, already have distributors. They already have folks they're working with. But it is wonderful that, our company is like always curious and open to listening to like what we think is the next thing or where we can kind of get our hands dirty in a new space. So that's been really, really cool.
Hi friends, popping in for a little ad break to say hi to all my listeners, old, new, first timers, and maybe but hopefully not last timers. I hope you are enjoying the episode so far. If you are, then please write a review on whatever platform you are listening to this podcast, or even better, share it with a friend who you know would love this episode too. But for now, there is still so much to learn from the incomparable Alexa, so let's get back to the episode.
Maybe you like cooking. Maybe you don't. Either way, the new Blue Apron is for you. Because along with our classic meal kits, we're offering new pre-made and one-pan meals to help you get dinner on the table fast. And now there's no subscription needed, so you can just order and enjoy. Do delicious food your way. Shop 100 plus meals at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
There's so many aspects to your job that we've touched upon. So what skill set would you say this job requires? And what specific skill, superpower skill do you have that makes you feel like you are good at this job and can succeed at this job?
I think there's a lot of skills, but I think kind of the two that I think that I've developed over my time is, I think, first off, having empathy. As I'm managing a team now, I want to manage them how I'd like to be managed. Certainly, every manager I've had in my career, I'm so appreciative of what I've learned great lessons from them. And there's also things that I'm like, now that I'm in that position, I would do something different. Right. And it's always, listening and having curiosity about what my team brings to me, what I bring to just, I think keeping those lines of communication open. I think the other thing is intuition. I've had a manager say to me, wow, you're really able to see around the corner. And I think that is something you can't teach. You just inherently have. And in the music industry, you desperately need, because whether it's technology, genres, how people are consuming things, it's constantly changing, and it could change very fast.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's a compliment I just keep in my back pocket. And I have to remind myself, when there are more difficult times, that like, I have this inherent skill. It's not really something you can be taught, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Director of marketing, to me, sounds pretty high up there and pretty impressive. And where do you go from here? what would be the next step? And I know you've jumped from various different companies, but is that typical? What is the career growth that either you're seeking or looking out for?
Yeah, I think, in this industry, in this job market, there is a lot of hopping around because that's just business.
Mm-hmm.
And because technology changes music and music changes technology, I get excited about what other strategies that I don't know about yet, what other partnerships, like particularly I worked at a gaming company at some point, and gaming and music are so aligned, and there's so many artists that are gamers. Obviously there's music and games. It's really interesting, and there's cool things happening every day. So for me, what I get excited about for the future is like, what other campaigns, what other ideas are out there? What other tactics can I do?
Yeah.
And continuing to learn from others of what's working for them, what will work for what we're working on.
Yeah. On that note, what skill or lesson have you learned from your experience at the gaming company or one of your previous roles in music that has helped you in this role where you are now a director of marketing and have so many different functions under you?
Yeah, I'd say working at a gaming company, I was in the music division, and this was at a time where ringtones, ages me, were huge. And it was like a 2-year thing where people were looking to personalize their phones.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was like the ringback, the ringtone, all that stuff. And, I was sitting next to people that were developing games, and I got to really understand it's very expensive to create a game. And number two, it takes really long. It's a really long process.
Yeah.
And so understanding that, and then obviously I would hear them talk about, hey, like what's the game story? How is it going to end? Like, again, it all goes back to storytelling, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was something that I just kind of absorbed, right? And also in that role, it's kind of like a breakthrough role for me because I was part of similar to this role as like the whole process. So, I got to do the deal with the artist and edit the ringtone with a team, and then cleared the publishing, adjusted the content, sent it to carriers, pitched AT&T or Verizon or whoever, and then sourced more content. So like I touched every part of the business and really got to understand all the pieces and how they work together.
Yeah, that is so important. I always feel like the most beneficial jobs are the jobs where you are learning and growing. But honestly, yes, obviously growth is very important. But I think just like fundamentally, if you're learning from day one, then that is a good job. And then you can grow from when you potentially have stopped learning at that job. And I think those jobs are sometimes few and far between, especially in the entertainment industry, that sometimes they just don't let people learn. It's like a gate.
Yeah, it's such a good point because I think also in entertainment, we're afraid to fail.
Definitely.
Like there's budgets, there's creators or artists or whoever, and there's so much pressure to be perfect. And it's hard to learn when you have that pressure. Like we have to do the thing that we said we were going to do. It has to have this result. And like the messy middle is actually where you learn the most, and making mistakes, you learn a lot. You're never going to make the same mistake twice, right? So that is a really, really good point. And I think we have to be afraid to fail.
Yes, 100%. And otherwise, how are you developing new talent is my thing. But we could go on a whole different direction for that. Coming back to you, what is something that people do misunderstand about your job?
Yeah, music marketing is essentially art and science and data-driven creative storytelling.
Yeah.
The best campaigns I've seen understand that there's an algorithm driving a lot of music consumption, and then like emotional, how do you grab people? How do you make that emotional connection, right? And then I see folks saying, well, hey, we got this great playlist, we're done. But that's really the start of the whole funnel, as they say, the marketing funnel. Or, hey, we ran an ad campaign. It was great. We're done. You're never done. If these don't translate into sustained monthly listeners, or they're engaging, they're following, they're saving, or there's no fan connection, it's just going to fall flat. Viral success isn't a silver bullet.
Yeah.
It's, again, it always goes back to the funnel and how you're continually bringing fans into your journey and keeping them going.
Yeah. Definitely, I've underestimated in this specific type of work, marketing, how much data does play a factor into this work. I just had someone on who does grab data for the marketing department to help them with their campaigns, and I feel like that's something that people don't really think of when they think of marketing, but you do need to have that information to be able to properly be able to curate the best strategy, for sure.
I'm done with subscriptions. Streaming, fitness, razors, vitamins. I've got subscriptions for everything in my life. They lock you in, and half the time, I can't figure out how to unsubscribe. That's why I'm so excited about the new Blue Apron. Now you can get delicious meals delivered with no subscription needed, including new pre-made options. Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
I want to switch now to talk a little bit about your journey to where you are now. Starting with the very fundamental, why music? Why did you want to come into this space? What did that look like?
Yeah, I was involved in instrumental music from probably middle school all the way through college. So I'm someone that truly believes music education is fundamental. It should be required.
Yeah.
It was something that was very character building for me and still touches me to my day to today, since a lot of my friends are still part of all those different programs. And then when I got to college, all of my friends were starting to think about their future and they wanted to be professional musicians. So I knew that I was not good enough to be a professional musician. So I wanted to help them. And so that was the main reason I wanted to get involved in the music industry, was like, how do I help my friends? And at that time I was a PR major in college, and I was writing, bios and pitching them to press and etc. So that's how I started, was just wanting to help my friends.
Yeah, taking that on yourself and kind of doing what you do now, but for yourself and for your friends. That's awesome. Are your friends still professional musicians, and are you still doing that for them?
I do have a few that are touring. I have one friend who is a percussionist, and she's amazing, and she's constantly on the road, and it's so exciting to see that. It is a lot of work to do that for artists. People that are on the management side of things is a whole other ballgame from what I do. So yeah.
Yeah. Similarly on that line, like that did require a lot of hustle. And I feel like that is kind of the expectation in entertainment, that, you're hustling, you're laying this base layer to help you grow. But that really comes from your own hard work. So looking back at the earlier days of your career, and it could be, writing these bios for your friends, but what would you say is somewhere or a time in your life where you really did hustle and you're grateful for that work that you did?
Yeah, I would say the college era hustle. When I was majoring in PR, I majored in PR, I minored in music, and I got an opportunity to intern at a major record label.
Wow.
And at that point, you didn't get paid. And it would require moving to Los Angeles for the summer. And my school, rightfully so, was like, well, we won't approve this. And I was fortunate that I could make it work financially, and they fought me on it. And I said, well, no, this is what I'm going to do. And they finally gave in and were like, okay, I'll give you credit for it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I went to a tech school. And so they're like, well, what are you going to learn from this or whatever? And I think even if this didn't involve moving, I think they probably would still have fought me on it, it's what I wanted to do. So I just kind of pushed them. And in that internship, I it was like, my first real office job, right? Answering phones and all that good stuff. And, some of the things, obviously some of the things they asked me to do, I made Starbucks runs and I would bring the mail cart.
Been there.
I would take the mail cart and go across the street and load it up. And they're like, oh, okay, that's smart.
Yeah.
Or I worked a 16-hour day doing media relations for Ozfest, which was like exhausting. And that led into my actual first paid job where I worked at a major amphitheater, and I was answering phones and doing media relations and getting to go to concerts or working them. And that was a hustle, 70 hours a week working. I couldn't have done that now. But I really got to understand how concerts are put on, and then also understand audiences. And I think that's also something that helps me in my role now, is like at a country show, the audience will look like this and they'll behave like this.
Yeah.
Or a rap show or any other dance. I could tell you even, and it prepares me now for as a concert goer. That concert I went to over the weekend, I was like, okay, this is going to be a late arriving crowd. We'll get there early so we beat the crowds. And like, sure enough, we're like some of the first people there, and then they're trickling in, and they missed, there are 4 artists on this bill, and most of them missed the first artist because of traffic, because all of them were late. So it's definitely something that, seemed crazy at the time, but it helps. Even just like your day-to-day life.
Totally. On that note of hustling and learning and all of this, was there someone or something, like a job, that you think kind of helped you grow in your career? I feel like I'm mainly talking from my experience in entertainment. I feel like without someone helping you or a really well-connected job, it's hard to get to the next level. It's hard to get that promotion. You really need someone in your corner advocating for you, or a company advocating for you, or getting the right skills. So was there someone like that for you, or what would you attribute kind of the growth and the leveling up of your career to?
Yeah, I think it's a variety of people that helped me. And I think for me, it was just constantly being curious and building a community around myself of different people. And when I would do informational interviews, I'd always ask, okay, thank you so much for your time. Is there someone else that you're close with that I should meet? And so that would continually bring new people into my sphere, and I would learn from them. And I think it's so important in these kind of industries, is like, it's not who you know, it's like who knows you, right? Who says I can vouch for this person because I know them, and developing those like very close relationships. And it's not just about what they can do for you, it's what you can do for them as well. It has to be reciprocal.
Totally. I've got to ask, when did you start building your community? When did you realize that that was a necessary thing for you to do to advance in your career?
It was very early on when I was in college. The reason I got this internship, because a friend's family member was affiliated with this company. And, I'm so thankful for that. And I knew very early on, I was not going to get the things that I was not going to be in the place I needed to be in unless I met the people that were going to help me to get there.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to say that to make sure that people know that it's really never too early to start networking and doing these informational interviews, for one, A, to build your community, but B, also to figure out what you want to do, and C, you have no idea how people are going to help you in the future. So yeah, it really is important to start early.
Especially if you're in college, that is such a great time, because I do regularly try to make time for folks that reach out to me, because I know what it was like when I was in college, and there's so much you can learn. And I feel like when you're in college, people like to talk, right? So if you can find people that like to talk, you can build those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I always say too, is people love to talk about themselves. So reach out and ask people about themselves, and they will talk to you.
They will.
Absolutely. So we've talked a little bit about the start of your career, some of your gaming work. I know also you spent a large part of your career working in strategic partnerships. Can you talk us through exactly what that means and how that relates to the work you do now?
Yeah, it's essentially the similar work I'm doing now. It's just, again, that larger part of the funnel, right? I'm still working with DSPs. I'm also figuring out what makes sense for our artists to partner with as well. So it used to be just what I focused on, and now it's a part of the whole mix.
Okay, really, really dumb question. What are the partnerships? Are they
Yeah,
like with products, commercials? Like what are the partnerships you're building? Are you building or
it
making
could
or?
be a gaming company. It could be anything, but most of the partnerships I'm focused on are with the digital service providers.
Got it, got it. And that was your work in earlier on your career as well, as mostly focusing with
Yes.
DSP as well.
Yes. Yep.
So what would a process of making that partnership look like, especially if it's something where someone can focus individually on, like, why is that? What makes it such a unique thing in and of itself and something that someone only focuses on, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, previous roles it was a much larger organization with, you know, thousands and thousands of artists. And
Got
so
it.
you have a team that had to be spread out because the business was so large that there's only so many hours in the day.
Right.
And some
Got
of
it.
these DSP, the revenue is huge.
Got it. Interesting. So looking back at your career so far, I know we talked earlier about being laid off and how tough that was, but was there any other point where you thought this might be too hard? I might have to switch? Because I mean, I've certainly reached that point with entertainment where I was like, I can't do this anymore. So did you ever get to that point? Was there ever something else where you're like, this is all I wanted to do. I am going to go get through this?
Yeah, I would say during the layoff, I was looking at other entertainment like companies because I feel like that is what I speak and what I breathe. So certainly I looked in gaming, I looked at other things, but I came back to this because it was an amazing fit and opportunity for myself.
And then on a more positive note, looking back at your career so far, is there something that is like your biggest pinch me moment? I am so glad I'm here. Just the happiest thing.
Again, it just goes back to being at a show and seeing that connection between
Yeah.
the fan and the artist. Yeah.
Hi, friends, me again. Hasn't this been just such a great episode? I certainly have learnt a lot from the wonderful Alexa, and I hope you are too. But the best part is that we are not finished yet. So before we get back into the episode, why not text the link to a friend or to a family member or a stranger or maybe your crush? Start that conversation. Share this episode with them. I know that they'll enjoy it too. All right, back we go.
Why does every recipe I try need 18 ingredients, including a jar of something paste I'll never use again, but will sit in my fridge for 9 months? I just want dinner in the oven, fast. That's why I love Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals. They send you fresh ingredients that are already chopped. All you do is put it all together and bake. That's it. No chopping, no weird leftovers, just delicious, easy-to-make meals. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Well, it is almost time to wrap up, but I do just want to get some more advice from you, just a little bit of advice, as I know you have so much for our listeners and they will deeply benefit from your advice. So, first question, what is your best tip for actually getting your foot in the door in the music industry? I know that is really hard just to get your foot in the door. So what would you say?
Yeah, I would say also understanding the job market itself, right? I read a report that the US has more unemployed people than job openings for the first time since April 2021.
That is so sad.
So it's horrendous, right? So you have to it's just creating expectations, right? So you already know that the industry is hard and the job market's already hard. So I think as long as you understand that, but I think for if I could give piece of advice, it's like focus on your network, your community, how to reciprocally help people,
Mm-hmm.
and they will help you. So
Yes.
I think there's also, along with Rise that, obviously we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
there's a couple other communities that I would love to recommend.
Oh,
One is
please.
called the Lone Wolves community. This was started by Lauren Blitzer Wright, who's a former colleague of mine. I think there's 700 music professionals from all over in there. It's a Slack community. She hosts webinars. They have an incubator series, which is really amazing. And I'd say the jobs, there's a Slack channel for jobs, and you can say, hey, I'm trying to, interview for this particular role. Do you know anybody?
Mm-hmm.
And people can refer you, or you say, hey, I'm hiring, or I know the hiring manager for this. Like, please, I can help you. And also, I think what you can't put money on, but there's honest community in there.
Yeah.
I've seen people talk about particular roles or companies where they're like, hey, just be careful.
Interesting. Wow, that's
Yeah,
great. I
it
love that people
really
do that.
is.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
so helpful.
There's another one called Big Ass Kids. This was started by Carolyn Ortiz, and it's a website that they started where it's, there's artists in there, and then there's music professionals. There's folks that are, transitioning from, maybe they were part of a layoff and now they're freelancing.
Mm,
And it's like helping each other with tools, like maybe you need album art done, maybe you need a marketing rollout. What I also really love is she started a pitch for women in music for companies, because there are so few women at the top there.
yeah,
And it's a pitch perfect. So they're working on making sure it's like an incubator for women to help them develop companies. So I think that's really, really important. And then obviously, even though it's outside of the music space, Rise is also an amazing place to be.
yeah, yeah. It was so unbelievably helpful. Just those calls where you could just simply go on an event where where
Yes, 100%. And allowing
amazing.
yourself to grieve, right?
Yeah.
Losing a job is really, and we don't talk enough about how difficult it is. You lose your money, but you lose health insurance, you lose community.
Mm-hmm.
It's putting you out on your own, right? So I think it's just important to give yourself space to grieve and be sad, and
Yeah.
learn what you can so you can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're so right. We do not talk about it enough, and it is something that I, at some point in my life, I would hope to be able to fix in some way or another. But yeah,
Same.
absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I think whenever someone's gone through it, they're just like, you just know. And I think unless you've gone through it, you can't understand.
Yeah, that's also another piece of advice I would have for people is, you might talk to someone that's been in their role for a long time and they don't understand what the job market is right now.
Yeah,
And it's a little, you're just like, oh,
yeah,
just have empathy for other people.
exactly. No, 100%. Then another question for you. If you could go back and give the college you, where you were writing bios for friends and things like that, one piece of a career advice, what would it be?
I think, just telling myself that you're on the right path and you're making incremental steps to get to your goal, and you'll get there. It might look different than what you thought it would be, but
Mm-hmm.
it's you're going to get there, and
Mm-hmm.
there's might be different, but it's there.
Yeah, that is excellent advice. I think that's, yeah, something that I did not realize when I was in college, that you just have this idea of what you want. And then in reality, things may look different, and that's okay. And you're still on the right path and things like that. But that is excellent advice. And then, final advice question for you. What's one mistake you see young professionals in the music industry making over and over again? And how would you say and what would you say to have them do differently?
I think they come into it like, what can I get out of everything, as opposed
Mm.
to what can I give? How can I add
Ooh,
value?
yeah.
How can I set myself up where I'm constantly adding value, and so there's no doubt of your strengths. How can I be more curious and learn from other people? And yeah, I do see a lot of messages from folks, and they're just like, well, how did you get to be where you are? And how can I copy what you're doing? I was like, well, everyone's journey is different. And I think, again, just starting with how can I help?
Absolutely. Asking that question is so important. You need to be able to give something in order to get something back. It's the same with building a
Correct.
community, giving something,
Yep.
getting something back. It is that balance. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I just have one final question for you, and that is, for you, Alexa, what's next?
I'm so appreciative that I get to be in the industry, having a seat at the table. And how do I keep learning? Really, like, how do I keep learning so I can keep growing?
Yeah, I think that's so important. That is truly the number one thing I think is important in any job. How can I keep learning so I can keep growing? I love that. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. I so appreciate your time and all your insight and advice and your story. I think that there is so much to learn from your career, and I am so excited to see what comes down the line for you. And wait, are there any artists that we should be looking out for and supporting?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say if you're into Afro beats, it'd be Spyro. That's an artist
Okay.
that we're working with, and really just great vibey music. So that is one I would definitely shout out.
Amazing. I love that. All right. Thank you again. And I'm so appreciative.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of What's Next with Lacey. I hope you will join me again in 2 weeks for my next episode, where we'll be diving into more careers, more stories, getting more advice to help you navigate what's next for you. All right, see you soon. Bye.
Maybe you like cooking. Maybe you don't. Either way, the new Blue Apron is for you. Because along with our classic meal kits, we're offering new pre-made and one-pan meals to help you get dinner on the table fast. And now there's no subscription needed, so you can just order and enjoy. Do delicious food your way. Shop 100 plus meals at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.